Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to all of you. On behalf of the Tagoreans, the oldest Bengali organization in the UK, this is Godhuli Vishwanathan on today's episode of Timeless Tagore, Chiroshokha, a series of conversations. In this series, we will introduce you to various eminent personalities who have been fundamental in helping to keep Tagore truly timeless through their active and passionate service to our communities in their respective fields. My guest today is Alokananda Roy, the renowned dancer, choreographer, and social worker. A former Miss India first runner-up, she had no interest in the multiple film offers that she was inundated with subsequently, but firmly stuck to her one and only passion, dance. An internationally acclaimed exponent of Indian classical dance, her work extends past the stage and into the world of social reform. Through her non-profit social organization Touchworld, she works towards reformation and rehabilitation of prison inmates of the West Bengal Correctional Home and their children. She has also worked extensively with acid attack survivors, the transgender community, patients with Parkinson's disease, and most recently, the juveniles living in the West Bengal Observational Home. Prior to her work with the inmates, Alokananda Roy worked with gifted and talented children from the slums of Kolkata and integrated them into her dance school, Chandanaloke Cultural Academy. She was also invited by Walden House, the Los Angeles prison, to conduct a workshop with the prison inmates there and use her unique method of dance therapy for social reform. She is the recipient of numerous national and international accolades and awards for her work over the years. It is our privilege to bring to you a candid interview with Alokananda Roy on today's episode of Timeless Tagore, Chiroshokha, a series of conversations. Thank you so much for joining us today. A very, very warm welcome to you. This isn't your first brush with the Tagoreans UK. From what I know, way back in 1986, you came to the UK as a young dancer to perform the lead role in the dance drama Shama, which was part of the Tagoreans' month-long countrywide celebration of Rabindranath's 125th birth anniversary. I'm sure you have many memories of that trip. Can I start by requesting you to share some special ones with us today?
Hi everyone. Thank you for asking me this question about my experience in 1986 when we were celebrating 125 years of Rabindranath Tagore. It was quite an experience because artists from all over India were together and we were performing in all different cities and towns of England, traveling by buses together in the coaches. It was not just fun, but it was a very different experience, taking Tagore together to another country where he had been even as a young boy. Well, I've performed Shama in Hindi. The whole group of Shama was of course from New Delhi. I was the only one in the team who was not from Delhi. And it was another very rare experience when I've never performed especially a dance drama and especially Shama in any other language other than Bengali. It was a unique experience and sometimes I had difficulty relating to it, but with practice, with time, yes, because you see, Tagore was so open to everything. He accepted and he brought in, the costumes, the songs, the music from every country that he had been to. And this time we were taking his work to another country in a language which was, it was translated by someone. And it was different. See, now when I think back, I take a lot of pride in even saying that I have been fortunate to be able to perform for Tagore's centenary year in 1961, and then for his 125th year, and then also 150 years, when of course I'll come to that later, when we especially doing Balmiki Pratibha, Tagore's Balmiki Pratibha with the inmates of correctional homes of West Bengal. So I've been around for quite some time, I must say. Completed 65 years of stage performance last year. Of course, 2020 is erased from everybody's life. So I can call this 21 as my 65th year of stage performance, solo stage performance. Not just Shama, it was the togetherness of different artists and everybody celebrating Tagore. Thanks to Tapunda and Goirikadi, who I so fondly remember, because it was their brainchild and it was possible because they took the initiative, and it wasn't an easy task because we were artists from all over the country, all over India, and but it was so much, not just fun, but a rare experience which I will cherish all my life.
Wow, that was such a lovely recollection of what seems to have been an absolutely amazing trip. You have been performing and choreographing Tagore's works for more than 50 years now. You have taken him with you everywhere. What meaning does Tagore the Chiroshokha hold in your life?
It's not 50 years. It's, as I said, it is for 65 years. Why I say this is my first public solo performance was in Chiroshokha on Pochishe Boishak, Tagore's birthday, and I did Gahana Kusuma Kunja Majhe. So I started my solo performance with Tagore. He is our Chiroshokha. I call him my Adrisho Dadu, my invisible grandfather. I have never met him. I've never seen him, but I grew up on his lap. It's like I can't remember. I don't think I've ever been anywhere or in any situation in life ever since I was born, when I don't call him my Chiroshokha, he's my Chiro Dadu with me. And every time I heard his songs, every time there was any association with Tagore's works, every year it had a different connotation. I think that is why he's everybody's Chiroshokha, because he's been a friend right from my birth till date. And like everybody else, I will say that he has been around to love, to console, to elevate. And today, whatever little I have been able to do, I couldn't have done it without our Chiroshokha, Tagore. 50 years is a long time. 65 years is a longer time. But tell me, all those who have ever been in anywhere in touch with Tagore has never been able to leave him. That is why he is forever with us, each one of us, not just me or you, but I think anybody who has ever had the experience of knowing him, even in a very, very, very small way, for a short time, you cannot forget him. He's there, always.
That is really endearing to think of him as your Chiro Dadu. You're so right about this. every one of us who's had the privilege of being exposed to his works has, only been drawn deeper into the world of Tagore. During your long and illustrious career as a dance director and choreographer, you've made a huge mark by using the power of dance to transform the lives of countless prison inmates. Your highly acclaimed and much talked about production of Tagore's Balmiki Pratibha was not only unique but a pioneering and fascinating project. How did it even strike you to go down this path of working with prison inmates? And why did you use Tagore's dance drama as your first project with them?
Since my childhood, I have been choreographing. Well, who would appreciate my choreography then? Because whatever I've learned in children's little theatre is all that I tried to put in to my choreography as a child. During our summer vacations, we would have these little dance dramas written by us, but everything had Tagore. And that was with my friends. But before that, I even tried with little puppies on the roads, and I used to bring them home and I tried to teach them. But do you think they will ever appreciate my choreography? They would just run away, however much I tried. So I used to have these little glass, birds, which I got as a present on my birthday. So I used to choreograph with those birds. They were obedient because they couldn't move. I had to make them move. But since then, I have been doing all my choreographic work, but most of it was Tagore's. Then came my own dances. Yes, I have always deviated from the rigidity of the classical dance forms. Whenever I have worked on Tagore's songs, because I felt I had to break away from the rigidity of the classical style to be able to express his bhava and his feeling of those words, of those songs. So I did. And maybe it all culminated into whatever I did in the prisons as well. We call it correctional home here. When I walked in to the prison, I didn't go there to reform them. The girls wanted to learn dance. I went as a guest on the International Women's Day. The girls wanted to learn dance and I readily agreed. Like anybody else, I was curious to know what their life was like in there, because prisons are usually, they have an iron curtain and not anybody can walk in and be there other than if you have been an offender. Well, when I first saw the girls, I didn't feel anything really, because they were all so well dressed. It was their special day. So they were all well dressed. And I didn't feel they were any different from you and me. But when I was coming out, that's when I noticed the boys. And they were just walking aimlessly. And their body language, maybe being a dancer, you can understand body language. So their body language spoke volumes. It was as though it was the end of the world for them, nothing to look forward in future. And the mother in me felt really sorry for their mothers. See, no child is born a criminal or an offender. I hate to use the word criminal, but I'm just saying it for the sake of saying. And you never know what makes you do those wrong things. and any one of them could have been my child. I instinctively asked the former ADG and IG, Mr. B.D. Sharma, without whose help, without whose support, I don't think I could have crossed over the initial hurdles of being and working. I wouldn't say working, but doing what I did in a place like prison. There were hiccups, obstacles, but well, as I keep saying, that if I believe in something, nobody can stop me unless I'm physically pushed out. And if I don't believe in something, nobody can make me do it. So I asked him if I could teach the boys as well, to which he was quite surprised. He said that, won't you feel scared? Because everybody feels scared of them. I said, why should I be? They're all my son's age, and what will they do to me? But I want to. And he said yes. It started. But mind you, everybody thinks that Balmiki Pratibha was the first production. No, it wasn't. I started with martial dances because the boys were actually pushed into it, because I wanted to teach. And it was the IG ordering 20 boys to join. They had to join. But imagine, they're supposed to be all macho men. And suddenly having to dance, that too learning from a woman who had crossed middle age. I was in my late 50s then when I went there in 2007. They thought they would have to dance like girls. And that's, there's a hierarchy in the prison. And the bigger the crime, the bigger hero you are. And these heroes were having to move like women was something, it was below their dignity. But I knew the boys might not want to do the kind of dance they were thinking they were going to do. So I started with martial dance, a bit of Kalarbayattu, and then gradually, they could relate to it. I told them that you don't have to dance like a woman. You will be doing martial dance, which is like karate, kung fu. So they could relate to that. And then, of course, I graduated them into folk dances of India, the vibrant folk dances. And believe me, I felt they were getting the rhythm back into their life. The rhythm they had lost in life at one point was coming back into their body, their mind, their soul, and they were enjoying it. Nobody is happy in a prison, but those few hours that they spent doing what they were doing made them feel good. And when you feel good, you do good. And that's what they were doing. They started making the props, the dandiyas, and those, those handkerchiefs for bhangra and the dandiyas. Everything, I didn't tell them to do anything. I didn't ask them to make anything, or I didn't even teach them. The artist in them was gradually blossoming, and they were feeling good from inside. So after a few months, when they were really doing well, I thought, why don't we put up a little program within the prison walls? I'd never ever dreamt that they would go out of the prison to perform on a public stage, leave alone traveling all over the country, going by trains and buses. It was all unimaginable. So there, the first time I went to Bara Bazaar and I bought yards and yards and yards of material. And who made the costumes? My boys and my girls. All the costumes were made by them, of the bhangras, of the dandiyas, of the baul. Everything was made by them. I only got them the material. So we had a little program within the prison walls, and of course There was very few guests were allowed, of course. It was within the walls of the prison. But one gentleman said that, why don't you do it in Uday Shankar Dance Festival? I said, well, that will be wonderful. So the invitation came, and Mr. Sharma and the then minister, they both gave permission. And when I started with 20 boys and 10 girls, I had a team of 60 boys and girls performing for the first time on a public stage where they got a standing ovation. You see, people went to see out of curiosity. That, oh my God, let's go and see what the prisoners are like. How do they do? What will they do? And when they saw a professional finish, and when they knew that everything was made by them also, they got a standing ovation. And that is what made a difference to them. They got their dignity back. They got their self-respect back. And when they came back, I remember, even today, I go and bring them out when we go for a performance, but I never see them off into the prison. I still feel bad when they have to go back to get locked in. But that day when they went back, they celebrated their success. And I could make out from, they didn't tell me in so many words, but I could make out from their, again, their body language, that they were no longer feeling what they felt about themselves anymore. That's when I thought of Valmiki Pratibha, the transformation of a dacoit to a saint. Well, that's how it started. And in Valmiki Pratibha is special because all the songs have been sung by them, all the costumes are made by them, all the props are made by them, and of course they perform themselves, and it has created history. And who has created the history? My boys and girls who were actually ostracized by the society. They are the ones who has made history. Nowhere in the world do prisoners go out of the prison, perform not only in city auditoriums, but in other places across the country, traveling by buses, and trains. And they go shopping, they go sightseeing, and they come back. You know why? They will never, ever want to lose what they have found again, their dignity, their self-respect, and above all, the trust. So that's the difference Valmiki Pratibha made. I had it on a platter. It was a gift from Tagore. And I just handed it over to them. And while they were rehearsing their songs and the dances, when you're repeating something constantly, it penetrates. And as I say, and I have found all my Valmikis there. If they are transformed, it's because of Tagore. If they are transformed, the credit goes to them, because I only held their hand. They transformed themselves. And I think our Chiroshokha is the person who did it all.
That is such a fabulous story, the way you have won over the hearts of the men and women within those iron walls. You must have had so many emotional and heartwarming experiences with the inmates over the years. Could you share some that are closest to your heart? In particular, any memories that reflect the impression that Tagore's message may have left on them?
Yes, there have been many, many emotional moments, incidents, being with them in the prison. You see, people often tell me that I'm not practical, that I'm emotional. But believe me, if there was no emotion, then this wouldn't have happened. It is not, dance was my medium, my tool. But what actually worked was this emotional bonding between them and me when I became Ma from Madam. It didn't happen overnight. It was through all those emotional journeys when they felt that I cared for them. I was not just an NGO or not just there to do a little workshop. No, it's been my journey for almost 15 years now. So I cannot leave them, and they will not leave me either. I remember the first time when I felt that how emotion actually works is when one of the boys fell ill during a rehearsal. It was very hot and we don't have air conditioned facilities in the prison other than the main office, the superintendent's office. Excuse me. Now he felt sick. It was about May. I started in March. This was around May, end of May. And he had a blackout. So I asked somebody to get some water. When they brought the water, I put his head on my lap and I put water on him, on his head, behind the ears, like I would do for anybody else. And he gradually opened his eyes. So I asked him, I said, "Are you feeling better?" He kept looking at me. He nodded his head. Yes. And he was still staring at me. So I said, "Do you want to say something?" He had big eyes. And I used to call him, I said, "You know, your eyes are like Vivekananda, but someday I hope you'll become like him also." So he had that kind of eyes and he was still looking at me. So I said, "Do you want to say something?" He said, "No." But you know, when I went back after a couple of days for the next session, he came back with a little piece of paper where he had written that I don't remember my mother so much anymore. But when I close my eyes and I think of her, I see your face. And what did I do? I only touched him. Nobody touches them. Nobody. So I suppose that little touch, that's why I've named my organization Touchworld, because touch heals. I can't say that now, at the present moment. Here, touch can actually harm because of the physical distance that we have to maintain. But I'm glad that I went 15 years back where touch actually healed. It was not just the healing of his illness, it was the healing of his soul. And I became a Ma. I remember this boy who was into addiction. You know, it is a place where you get everything. Let's face it, let's be honest. And he had a few addictions. And I kept warning him. I said, "If you are going to do this, you are not going to be in my team. I'm not going to have you." He would say sorry, but repeat it after some time. So eventually I had to take him out of the team because I had to maintain that discipline. Well, he came to me and he said that, "Ma, you can scold me, you can beat me." You know, I beat them also. I don't beat the girls, but the boys get 1 or 2 whacks from me every other day, and they quite enjoy it because the next day they get a hug from me. So they look forward to one of those spankings once in a while. But that's also out of love. So he said that, "Ma, you can scold me, you beat me, you do what you want, but please don't leave me. He was not in my team after that, but he was still my son. And I've remained a ma for him. He got transferred to another jail in Midnapur. I used to go and visit him in Midnapur, and he would wait for me with a packet of wafers, with some fruits, with some toffees, that Ma will come, he would bathe and wait for me. It breaks my heart to say that I did not leave him, but he did. He committed suicide just last year. We went home on parole for 5 months, and when he had to come back to the prison, he couldn't take it. So he ended his life. So I still pray for him, and I tell him that I did not leave you, but you left me. So there's so many emotional stories, and if you ask me how Tagore has helped them with their emotions, every song, when they are singing, when they are performing, it has an effect. And I taught them Amar Mukti Aloe Aloe. I keep telling them that don't think you're free when you move out of the prison. Are we free? We are bound by so many social bindings. We are not free. You're only free when your spirit is free. And you will, if you want, you will find freedom everywhere, in the skies, all around you. So look for that freedom. And that's why I taught them that song, Amar Mukti Aloe Aloe, Amar Mukti Dhulai Dhulai Ghashe Ghashe, Amar Mukti Sharbojaner Moner Majhe. That's my part of the song. Dukkho Bipad Tuchcha Kora Kothin Kaje. So that's where I found my freedom. Dukkho Bipad Tuchcha Kore, it wasn't easy, but that's where I found my freedom, in a prison. And yes, my Chiroshokha or my Chirodadu has helped me to find that, helped them to find that. And I did a dance drama which many people don't know of. People know about Valmiki Pratibha, but I did one on Jesus Christ. And the whole production was based on Tagore's songs. And again, it's they who sang, and all the songs were so meaningful. Andho Jane Deho Alo. They loved that song. Mrito Jane Deho Pran. So I said, see, you have to see light from within. I used to explain each and every song to them, the philosophy behind it, the thought behind it. And they would sit and listen to me in rapt attention, and it seeped in. But it's an anecdote that I have to share with you, that when we were rehearsing for Jesus Christ, Dhrubod Jyoti Tumi Jishu, I had named it. One of the boys came up and told me, he says, Ma, I know you do all these dance dramas, you teach us all this to teach us something, to teach us a lesson. But I'll be very honest with you, Ma, I cannot be like Jesus Christ. I cannot get beaten up all the time and take it all. I'll hit back. See, why I'm saying this is that they understand the songs. They understand the essence of Tagore's thoughts and philosophy. And yes, it has affected them very positively. Now they sing, they compose their own dances. Now that I'm not being able to go there because of the COVID situation, they are choreographing, they are doing little programs within the jail walls. What more could I want? And I'm sure if Gurudev was here today, he would have been so happy that, his work, his words, his songs have touched hundreds of lives, and they're transformed today.
It is so interesting to hear from you on how you have used Tagore in so many different contexts. That brings me to my next question. Your work with prison inmates has now crossed national boundaries, and you were invited to take your unique approach even to the US. Tell us something about that. What next on this journey?
I often feel that the mother and Sri Aurobindo has thrust this work upon me. You know, Sri Aurobindo's cell in Presidency Jail is like a shrine. We have made it into an archive, and in his book where he's written about the tales of prison life, he calls it an ashram. That is where his spiritual journey began. Maybe in many ways, maybe my spiritual journey began a little earlier, but it consolidated once I went in there. Then perhaps it was time for the people of the other part of the world to know that how, Shakespeare is practiced in many prisons across the US, and they do so well. They are outstanding artists. But they are not allowed to do any public performances. So when Mr. Kurt Toftland came to India for a session in one of the institutions here, I was also invited. And when he got to know about my work, I have never been good at kind of, what should I say, I don't want to use the word publicizing my work. I've just worked. I have never really made an effort to spread it. Things happen when it has to happen. He invited me when he got to know, he does Shakespeare behind bars in the US. And he invited me for this conference, a world conference on Shakespeare in prison. Although I have not worked on Shakespeare plays with them, but still I was invited for, it was something unique, and nowhere, as I said, nowhere in the world do prisoners go out and perform. So after that session, after my session, people were really moved because of the emotional quotient more than the performance. And they invited me to the Los Angeles prison, the Walden House, to do a session with them. I was really excited because I didn't expect it. You see, I'm a foreigner there, so I didn't think that I would be allowed to go into a prison and do anything. But they got special permission for me, and I had a 2-hour session with them. It was again a very, very emotional experience for them and me, mainly me. I made them dance to Khwaja Mere Khwaja, and then I thought, let me try it with an English song so that they can relate to it. So I chose the song from Titanic, My Heart Will Go On. And I could feel, from the way they moved, it was all very free movement, I was not going to teach them Odissi. It was all very free movement, but more Indian. And they did it with me, and some of them kept repeating, it says, once more, once more. And you know what was the most heartening feeling for me? They, in those 2 hours, they were calling me Mama Roy. I became a mother to them also. They said, Mama, after doing this, something felt free from inside. Not only from the heart, but feeling light in the head. So I said, that's the magic of dance. He says, no, it's maybe, but it's a combination of a mother's love and the dance. So I think if I ever get an opportunity, I will go back and I would like to try this, at least talk about this all over the world, to the judiciary, to the prison departments, to the prisoners, to all people who would practice any art form within the prisons. We could have a session and let the whole world experience this. Even if they're allowed to go out, if you really trust them, they will not betray the trust. Believe me. And it has been proved, because I have been involved with very, very hardcore offenders, and trust has changed them. I think it is possible. Anything can be conquered with genuine compassion and love. But one thing that they have taught me is not to be non-judgmental. Not to be judgmental. I can love unconditionally. And above all, they have taught me unconsciously the power of forgiveness. This is what I have got in return from whatever I have been able to do for them. They have given me 200% back.
I love that you were called Mama Roy. They must have truly felt that sense of belonging to have given you such an affectionate name. Every great choreographer brings his or her own unique perspective to interpreting Tagore's work. I know that you have said before that you used a lot of martial arts to make it attractive for the male inmates. You've also introduced Purulia Chow and a lot of folk dances in your choreography. Tell us some more about the new techniques and innovations that you have introduced in your work.
My initial training was in Children's Little Theatre, where dance was just fun. Maybe that's how I've actually loved to dance, because there was no specific technique, there was no compulsion, and we just loved doing what we were doing. Then came the formal training from Manjulika Di, and I learned everything, all kinds of dances from her. Bharatanatyam, my initiation into Bharatanatyam was through her. Then all the folk dances of India, and of course the creative Tagore style, whatever you call it. So I was into all, and in the meantime I was also learning classical ballet, which our school taught, and of course I went for some time to Calcutta School of Music as well. So I was fortunate to be able to learn all different styles of dance. But I specialized later in Odissi. And my guru was Sanjay but Sanjukta Panigrahi. I think when I first saw her perform, I felt she was the Urvashi. Now, nobody could be so good. How can anybody be so good? Anyway, but when it came to my life, somewhere I just get moved towards Tagore and his songs, his dance dramas, his work, and somewhere although I have been trained in the classical style, which was very, very important, because that teaches you the real grammar of any style, whether it's music, dance. You have to know one of the classical styles to be able to grasp the grammar. Now I've learned the grammar. I've learned the nouns, pronouns, adjectives, verbs, where they should be placed. Now it was up to me to compose my own sentences, and that's what I did. When it came to Tagore's, choreographing to Tagore's songs, I thought pure classical dance form was somewhere, it was not blending with his thoughts, bhav as we call it. So I started deviating. Like my footwork would always be very, very Odissi, but my expression, my body movements, my hand movements, I didn't use so many mudras. I just went on a flow with the song, with the words, and what it tried, what I felt. He tried to express. I expressed it in my own style, which I created. Most artists do. Everybody has a style of their own. Even in the classical styles, each one has a style, but I deviated. I deviated because I felt that the pure form was obstructing the bhav of Tagore's words and songs. So if you call it, if you think it's wrong, it could be wrong for others. But for me, I think I did the right thing. And if I don't enjoy what I'm doing, if something is thrust on me, I have been a very liberated soul always. I need my freedom. Maybe that is why I have found my freedom in doing things the way I want to do. You can judge me, you can criticize me, but I will do what I enjoy doing without compromising with the dignity of Tagore's work. I think that is my style. And what I've learned from him is to innovate. The way he has fused, that is actual fusion, not what we see and hear today. The way he has fused different styles of music, movements, art, craft together and made something so beautiful. That is the lesson we have to learn from him. That how much to take, how much to keep, and how much we can incorporate from different parts of the world, different styles, and put it together to make it beautiful. It shouldn't be jarring to the eyes. What I've learned from him is I know where to draw the line, and that is important. The courage to be able to break from what has been imposed on us, and also how much to break. That fine line we need to draw so that we don't compromise with the dignity of his work.
The year that has gone by has taken a toll on everyone, physically, mentally, and emotionally. How did you manage your projects in the middle of the dislocation caused by the pandemic?
The pandemic has changed everybody's life across the world. So if I think I'm suffering, I have to remember everybody is, I'm not alone. And sometimes we learn lessons from these situations. Yes, it has been a tremendous loss of lives, loss of work. Yes, all those are there. But I will also say the other side of the effect of pandemic. One is it has brought the whole world together. It has connected the the whole world. We could never think, we didn't even know of the word webinar. It used to be seminars. Suddenly all seminars have become webinars, where we are relating, talking and discussing and interacting with people from different parts of the world at the same time. We have learnt to do this, which we didn't think of before. The other thing what I feel at my age, I have done a lot. Maybe not enough according to others, but I feel whatever I have done in this last 65 years, if I don't do anything for 1 year, I shouldn't feel frustrated. Sometimes these breaks are necessary. I'm talking about myself. You can call me selfish. But what I'm trying to say is, from my perspective, there's no point in pulling your own hair when there is no way out other than accepting the present situation. We are not enjoying it, but we have to accept it and make the best of it. As I said, I just gave you about these webinars. Today I'm talking to you. I don't think this would have happened if pandemic didn't happen. But I do miss my children in the prison. I cannot visit them. I have not met them. When things were a little better, I got the permission to go in, but from the very third day, everything was again closed down because things got really bad. I just went to meet them. But in between, what I did was, I just recorded my voice a little, talked to them, sent them to the superintendent. He would put it in a pen drive and show it to them. But it was a one-way traffic. Phones are not allowed there. They don't have internet in there. So this one whole year, I have not been able to communicate with them. But I never talk about my personal life. I have been through a lot. My life has been a roller coaster ride. But I take my life like the name I have got, Alokananda, the name of a river. So I create floods and I get hit in this direction, I change course. I keep changing course as nature wants, as nature wills. Sometimes things are beyond our control and we just have to hang on and make the best of whatever we have. We are at least still in this world alive. So many lives have been lost and very close friends are no more. But if nature, destiny wants it that way, I don't know what the divine will is. We cannot judge. We are nobody to judge. Things will happen as they are. We just have to accept it and try to make the best of it. Never stop smiling, because even if you're not smiling, things won't change. So might as well keep our spirits alive. That's important, because how you feel is how you will generate into others. So if all of us try to think positive, what our destiny holds, nobody knows. I'm here today, I may not be here tomorrow. But let's make the best of the situation that we are in, and let's make the best of whatever extra we are getting. Learning new things, new ways, and learning to live a simple life. We can do with the minimalistic things in life. We don't need a lot. Let's learn to be grateful and content with whatever we have today.
That was such a lovely message. Thank you. A final question as we come to the end of this fascinating conversation with you. Tagore's works have been imprinted in Bengal's cultural consciousness for more than a century now. But there is increasing concern that his values and relevance are fading away in our fast changing world, particularly amongst the younger generation. As a concluding note for artists like you who have worked tirelessly to promote these values, how big a challenge is it to continue to ensure that Tagore's messages and his art forms truly remain timeless for future generations?
There was a time when people complained about the copyright of Tagore's songs, his work, and when that was lifted, people felt liberated. Now, what happens is, liberation is something which some people can take advantage of, and that's what happened with Tagore's work. It was being distorted. We have no right to distort his work. Yes, we can all experiment in our own way without compromising on the dignity of his work. Nobody has ever been able to influence me into doing that. And I have openly, maybe gently, but openly, have been very, very critical about the way Tagore's songs, his work, has been distorted. I think that is showing disrespect to him. And we have no right to do that to someone who has given us so much. Today the world knows us for Tagore, yes, amongst many other things, many other people. He is like our God, our Chiroshokha. Who is a Chiroshokha? God is Chiroshokha. To us, He is God. He has taught us how to deal with every situation in life. And I think it is a crime to distort his work. Yes, you want to make it popular. Fine. There are so many ways of doing it. But cheapening his work is not something we should accept. And all those who understand, who try to understand, it's not easy to understand him. He's like an ocean, so deep. But all those who regard him and his work should stand up and speak when it comes to distortion. We cannot allow that to happen. No matter what, I will never ever allow even my students to even try and distort it one bit. Sometimes, these youngsters, they do get influenced by the modern way of doing things. But that's one lesson more than dance I teach them. That if you are doing anything with Tagore, you have to know where to draw the line. That's the first thing you have to learn from him, not just the songs and the dance. The first thing you have to learn is his life, how he would have liked you to do things. And he was such a far-sighted, with such a modern vision. He will appreciate anything that you experiment with his work, but do not compromise with the dignity of his work. I think we will be doing not just injustice, that is disrespect. So all those who understand this should stand up and speak for it and speak against all the wrong things that we see are happening today. Thank you so much for inviting me and allowing me to share my thoughts. Of course, my journey of 65 years cannot be concised in this maybe 1 hour. Maybe another day, if you give me an opportunity. There are lots of stories which I can share with you. I don't preach, I don't give speeches, I only tell stories. And I think these stories today can be a lesson for the youngsters as to what life was for us, how beautiful it was for us, and they can keep it not just beautiful the way we did, they can make it more beautiful, holding on to the past, to the traditions. Let us not give up our tradition just for the sake of few moments of fun. Let us not do that. It's not done. Thank you so much once again, and we will meet again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We would be absolutely honored and delighted to have another chance to talk to you, to hear many more of your fascinating stories and memories. I also want to thank you for all the wonderful work that you're doing and for making time to share with us your story about your journey with Tagore. To all our viewers, thank you for joining us on this episode of Timeless Tagore Chiroshokha. We will be back very soon. Do stay tuned. Thank you and bye for now.